Our story begins aboard an Imperial Star Destroyer flying through hyperspace. The Dark Lord Darth Vader is leading a mission to Murkana, where a group of Jedi was just spotted. It has been 1 month since Anakin became Vader, and Vader was still fighting this new reality. As he sat in a makeshift chamber, having his armor cleaned and checked, he looked into a shiny part of the wall, and Vader saw his face, his unrecognizable, wretched, ruined face. Vader saw no life behind the yellow eyes. The spark of hope and the fire of passion that once lived in him were replaced by a numb anger that he just kept on feeding. Whenever Vader wasn't thinking about the Empire and about serving Palpatine, he remembered Padme. Vader had decided that the only way to move on was by fully convincing himself that he is Darth Vader, that Anakin is gone, and once he fully believes that, perhaps the mental agony will finally fade. Vader's self-loathing was interrupted as Commander Oppo appeared, informing Vader they have arrived. Vader's shuttle would dip down into the dark world, and as the 501st troopers spread out, Vader felt a faint rumbling beneath his feet. Just a moment later, the entire landing pad that Vader's shuttle was on collapsed in on itself. The shuttle was ripped down into the ground, with Vader still inside, and he used the Force to protect himself. As the debris and the dust were clearing, Vader could hear the sound of lightsabers igniting and clone troopers screaming out as they were quickly cut down. Vader ignited his red blade, but quickly found that he still wasn't fully used to his suit. The legs were damaged, and Vader stumbled out of the ship, swinging wildly, and from behind Vader, a stolen ion cannon was fired right into him. Vader crashed hard to the ground, defeated. When Vader eventually woke up, he found himself tied to a post with a sort of ray shield rope. He could barely move, his limbs were sealed mechanically. All he could do was wait, and in a nearby room, a group of rebels stationed on Murkana were looking at Vader. There were 3 Jedi Knights among them, as they were on a special assignment when Order 66 came in, so they never returned to Coruscant. And from this room, a woman moved to the door, saying she must know the truth. Jedi Master Roan Shrine told this senator not to go in there. It's too dangerous. But the woman was not listening. She closed her eyes, feeling a million different things inside of her, and slowly she opened the door. As the door opened, Darth Vader looked up. Bright light was emerging into the room, making Vader see things that weren't real. It had to be a vision. But then, Padme Amidala spoke, asking if it's true. Is it really him under that mask? Vader was frozen. She was dead. Palpatine told him that she died. Vader felt massive shame, embarrassment, confusion, sadness, anger, and joy, all blending together as Padme approached him, clicking his mask, lifting it from his head. Padme put a hand to her mouth as she looked into the sad, yellow eyes of her former husband. She turned away, trying to compose herself, and she heard Anakin mutter through a raspy voice that he loves her, that his love turned him into this. Padme turned back, slapping Vader across the cheek, and Vader felt the sting. He didn't exactly blame her, but he just looked back up to her, asking about their child, and he felt Padme's agony rise as she told Vader that she survived. The children, the twin children, did not. Vader had no words. Everything he did, it was all for nothing. Betraying Mace Windu, executing Order 66, the younglings, letting the clones all succumb to their chips, slaughtering separatists in cold blood, and of course, fighting and losing to Kenobi. It was all for a lie. Padme survived. The children did not, and it was all his fault. He thought of Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, Rex, more Jedi than he could count, that died to his blade, and the anger rose in Vader, replacing the sadness. Vader screamed out in rage, the walls and ceiling of this room beginning to crumble. Vader ripped himself free. The Jedi ran in to protect Padme, but Padme held up a hand, telling them she has this under control. This anger is not meant for her. Finally, Vader let go, dropping to his knees and asking Padme what he can do. Padme almost felt bad for him, but she knew the truth. She knew Anakin was gone, and Darth Vader was a murderer. In an ideal world, he would be arrested for life, but she knew that was no longer plausible. The rebellion can and must use him. So, Padme told Vader that the only way to begin making up for his sins, making up for the twins, Padme said, holding back tears, is to help bring down the Empire from the inside. Vader shook his head, saying Palpatine will feel his betrayal. He will kill him. Padme said that maybe so, and perhaps it's what he deserves. Vader asked why she would trust him, but Padme just shook her head, saying it's not trust, it's desperation in a shattered galaxy that he has brought to life, because after everything he's done, he somehow is still their best option. Padme dropped a communication puck right in front of him, and she left the room, but as the door closed behind her, she immediately broke down crying. She wanted so desperately to find Anakin and Vader. She wanted Anakin back, but that part of her life died with the Republic. In time, Vader would pick up the puck and turn it on to find Bail Organa waiting. He looked to Vader, saying he will be called Fulcrum from here on out if he chooses to join the rebellion as a spy. Vader nodded, and Bail said they will be in contact. Bail Organa from Alderaan recalled the last month. On Polis Massa, he had to be the one to tell Padme that the twins did not survive childbirth. He tried to tell Padme to take some time and recover, but she refused, blinding herself from grief by igniting this rebellion. She had to stay hidden, so Bail went without her to meetings on Coruscant, and after one meeting, he overheard 501st troopers mention the name Darth Vader. Bail knew the name from Obi-Wan, and when Padme found out, she laid the trap on Mercana, needing to know the truth. Somehow, she knew Vader would join them upon seeing her alive, and now, as Padme left Mercana, Bail could only hope she was still sane. And from here, Darth Vader began to live his life as a rebel spy. Every word he spoke to the Emperor had to be measured, and when in Sidious's presence, Vader had to convince himself that he was not a rebel spy, so his emotions did not betray him. He trained under Sidious for a few hours every day, still learning how to be a true Sith Lord, still having to give himself to the darkness, especially with his new body. Sidious was frustrated, as Vader was not progressing as much as he wanted, but in the end, Vader was now just a tool for the Emperor. He was no longer a true apprentice. Sidious planned to eventually find a better one, someone who was not so broken and defeated. But during the nights, Vader began stealing fragments of intelligence, whether it be shipment schedules, supply routes, or troop redeployments. Any small thing that the rebellion could get their hands on and begin to disrupt was a win for the rebellion. He carefully would encrypt the information. He would bring it to Bail Organa in the dark Coruscant alleys. Sometimes, Vader would ask about Padme, and Bail would just say that she was doing her duty. And as days passed by, Vader wanted to see her again. He had to. But to the Emperor, he was a loyal, broken apprentice. He could not stray too far from that side of his life. After all, Padme didn't truly want to see him right now. Vader learned how to truly mask his emotions, keeping his grief buried deep inside of him. After all, when he was Anakin, he always hid his anger, and this was similar. He used his access to Imperial communications to warn Bail about new factories meant for TIE fighter production, and the transport of Kyber crystals from captured Jedi worlds. After 3 months of this, Vader's double life nearly came undone. Sidious began questioning his apprentice's growing absences and strange energy in the Force, but Vader just said he's been working to undo any remnants of Anakin within him, as he's been having dreams of his past life. Sidious said that this was good. Do what must be done to truly give himself to the Sith. And then, Sidious brought Vader into his office below the Senate building, where Vader would find Commander Oppo, Tarkin, and Yularen standing together. Palpatine had all of them sit. Vader stood next to Palpatine, and Palpatine told them that he fears there is a spy within their ranks, feeding information to a cell of rebels. Palpatine laid out the evidence of stolen files that Vader has failed to cover up. He told all of them that this spy will be caught, and when they are found, everyone they love will be destroyed as an example of what defying the Empire brings upon people. Vader would leave this meeting with heavy anxiety, but he couldn't back out now. He knew he had to finish this. And in another mission to Bail, Vader had found out that the Emperor was preparing to deploy thousands of surveillance droids to planets known for their Jedi sympathies. Systems like Kashyyyk, Naboo, Alderaan, they would all soon be under constant Imperial watch. And along with this, Vader had other news. Palpatine just told Vader about the Death Star project, a project that was going to take another 15 to 20 years to complete, and Palpatine was going to the Geonosis moons where the skeleton of the battle station was being put together. So, Vader and Bail came up with an idea to put both of these rumors together. On Alderaan, Bail and a few of his aides would find one of these surveillance droids that was disguised as a regular Imperial construction droid. and Bail would hire a scoundrel gathering supplies on Alderaan to rig this droid with a bomb. The rigged droid would then be sent back to Coruscant, and Vader would go through security programs for Palpatine's Star Destroyer, overriding the console showing an unauthorized droid entering the ship. Vader would ensure that this bomb droid was secretly placed into the engine room to Palpatine's Star Destroyer, and then Vader would watch from the shadows as Palpatine's destroyer rose up and blasted off into hyperspace for Geonosis. Vader would get into his personal shuttle, and he would secretly take off for Geonosis as well. Within hours, Palpatine's Star Destroyer was orbiting the skeleton of the Death Star. Vader would grab the detonator, and he would push the button, completing his job as a spy, killing the Emperor as seconds later, fire could be seen erupting from the bottom of the ship. It spread quickly through the entire destroyer, and before long the entire thing exploded, crashing down into the moon below. Vader felt free for the first time since he was on Naboo, marrying Padme, and with a relieved sigh, he turned his shuttle and he blasted off. But in one of the smaller transports nearby, Emperor Palpatine watched his Star Destroyer explode, and then he felt into the Force, feeling Vader's presence, and Palpatine watched as this single shuttle turned and left the area. Palpatine felt a cold hatred rise up in him. So, Vader was the traitor after all. This was all a trap for him to find out the truth, and Palpatine wondered what could have possibly turned Vader against him. After thinking about it, Palpatine wondered if perhaps he was wrong. Perhaps Padme Amidala was not dead after all, and Palpatine decided it was time to head back to his home world of Naboo. On Naboo, Padme Amidala was living in secret here in an abandoned home by the lake. No one except Bail knew that she was living here. Padme chose Naboo because she wanted to make sure that her parents were kept safe, even if she couldn't ever actually go to them. And from this abandoned home, Padme spoke daily to Bail Organa and worked undercover to recruit more people to their cause. Every day, Padme wondered about Anakin. She wondered if there was any part of him still alive under that wretched armor. She fought within herself, knowing Anakin was evil. She could never have him back. He was gone. But as she sat here today, she heard a report from Bail saying that Vader's mission was a success. Palpatine's Star Destroyer was blown up, and they think he was on board. Padme was so happy about this, but as she looked out of her window towards her parents' home, she saw an Imperial transport dropping through the clouds and landing in front of her family home. Padme would see 2 Red Guards exit the ship, followed by a hooded man, and in a panic, Padme scrambled out of her hidden home, sprinting up the grassy hill, yelling up at Palpatine to not go any further. Palpatine turned with a smile, greeting his old friend Senator Amidala, thanking her for making this rather easy. He was going to torture her family for information about her whereabouts, but there is no longer any need. Palpatine's smile held no kindness, as he told Padme that her family will not suffer. He will kill them quickly, as soon as he kills her first. Palpatine assured Padme it's not personal. Vader simply has to pay for this betrayal. And Padme felt her throat begin to tighten. She was lifted off of her feet, gasping for air. She was clawing at invisible hands choking her, but she noticed Palpatine's expression suddenly change. Padme was dropped to the ground as Palpatine, astonished, told Padme that he could feel another presence. She was pregnant again. Padme didn't understand. She lost her children. She hasn't been with anyone since Anakin turned. Palpatine's eyes widened as he realized the truth. Padme is pregnant with a child in the same way that Shmi Skywalker was pregnant with Anakin, a miracle birth without a father, created by the Force itself, likely to stop the Sith. Palpatine smiled again, telling Padme she will not die today. He will bring her to Stygian Prime, where she will be imprisoned with nursing droids until she can give a safe birth. But she expects that Vader will try to come save her, and there he will die. And once Palpatine has this child, his future apprentice, then she, too, will die. Padme was hit with a stun blast, brought aboard the transport as Palpatine took off, deciding Padme's family was no longer worth the time. Back on Coruscant, Darth Vader moved into the back alleys where he always met with Bail Organa. He asked Bail what happens now that Palpatine is gone. Does the rebellion move for the government? Can he see Padme again? Bail just looked around with fear, and he told Vader he has to get out of here. Palpatine is alive. Vader didn't understand. He watched the Star Destroyer explode. But then he felt immense fear as he realized the truth as well. It was all a trap for him. Vader immediately asked about Padme, and Bail said they've lost all contact with her. They suspect she's been captured, not killed, and Bail told Vader that he knows there's no stopping him from going to find her. So Bail would give Vader some coordinates to where he can find some help rescuing Padme. Out in the galaxy, on the planet Telos 5, Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi was sitting on the ledge of a canyon, overlooking miles and miles of empty plains. Since the battle on Mustafar, Obi-Wan had gone into exile on this world, while Yoda was on Dagobah. Kenobi needed time alone before jumping back into the fight. He felt like he failed, and the memory of Anakin still haunted him. He hadn't been in contact with anyone since Mustafar, but today, the memory of Anakin was stronger than ever, until Kenobi heard loud, mechanical breathing coming up behind him. Obi-Wan didn't need to ask who this was. He could feel Anakin through the Force, as Anakin had let down the walls of Vader, and Anakin told Kenobi everything about him abandoning the dark side upon finding Padme. Anakin told Obi-Wan that he needs his help now getting her back. Obi-Wan had no love for this man anymore. He destroyed everything that Obi-Wan loved. But Padme was one of Obi-Wan's greatest friends, and so he told Vader reluctantly that he will help him. Vader knew that Padme was likely being held on Stygion Prime. It was the most secure prison the Empire currently had, and it was where high-level prisoners were being brought. So, that was where Vader and Kenobi would take off to in Vader's shuttle. The conversation in hyperspace was distant. They came up with a plan, but overall, Obi-Wan couldn't believe Anakin was alive, and he couldn't believe they were working together again. But finally, the shuttle would drop into Stygion Prime as the prison came into view. As the ramp fell, Vader and Obi-Wan would step into the chaos together. The guards here expected Vader to come and greet them, but instead were met with 2 lightsabers. The rhythm between Vader and Kenobi was unspoken, yet familiar, with Vader advancing, and Kenobi instinctively watching their back. Every motion carried a memory of what they once were, brothers side by side in the Clone Wars. And as they advanced through the corridors, the fighting grew easier until they reached the uppermost level where the highest security cells were being kept. They were mostly empty right now, but Vader began desperately opening them, one by one, until finally he opened the correct door. But standing inside, in front of Padme, who was being kept behind a ray shield door, was Sidious. The Dark Lord smiled and quickly blasted Vader with lightning as he was thrown backwards. Sidious laughed with pure glee, telling Vader he's been expecting him. He told Vader that he's always going to be ahead of him, and he was foolish to think he could be a spy for this rebellion. He sees right through him. Vader slowly stood back up with Obi-Wan helping him up, and Vader told Sidious he will do today what he should have done long ago. Sidious pulled out a red saber, saying this is going to be fun. More lightning sprayed out from his fingertips, and Obi-Wan deflected these bolts as he ran forward with Vader, both of them charging through the blue tendrils, sabers crashing against Sidious as they all locked together. Obi-Wan was straining hard, Sidious's smile growing wider. Vader pushed forward. They all broke apart as heavy sparks burst across the walls, and the 3 of them took a moment to recover. Kenobi stepped back for a moment, observing Sidious with unnatural speed, twisting between them, swinging for Kenobi's head as he barely blocked a killing blow. Vader moved back in, his strikes strong, using his desperation and his love for Padme to enhance his speed with the strength of his machine form crashing down. The suit was a weakness, but his pure need to win and having Obi-Wan with him certainly helped. But Sidious reached out, slicing right across Obi-Wan's calf, and he fell hard to the floor. Sidious stabbed down to try and finish it, but Vader slammed into Sidious, tackling him towards the main door. The fight spilled into the open as snow and wind swirled around them. Just a few meters away was the edge of the platform overlooking the Stygian cliffs. Sidious was angry. He lifted Vader with the Force, hurling him towards the edge. But Vader caught himself, dragging his lightsaber along the ground to steady his slide. Sidious moved forward, trying to knock Vader over the edge. Their sabers locked, red against red, and Vader knocked Sidious's blade away. Sidious angrily fired streams of lightning from both of his hands right into Vader's chest, tearing through armor and flesh. But with the agony, Vader reached deep into the Force, using the pain, the guilt, the love he still carried, and he seized Sidious by both arms. Vader then leapt backwards, flipping and falling over the edge while holding on to Sidious. As they plummeted, Sidious continued to unleash his lightning wildly, and Vader accidentally redirected the torrent right into the mountain wall. The explosion blew up the cliffside, and the mountains themselves began to collapse. the prison itself began crumbling over the edge. From inside of it, Obi-Wan crawled into the cell in the prison, shut down the ray shield, and Padme put him over her shoulder as they limped through the crumbling prison over to the landing pad. Against all odds, Obi-Wan and Padme took off in Vader's shuttle as the entire prison finally collapsed, falling hard into the abyss below, crashing down on where Sidious and Vader were supposed to be. Around 1 hour later, Obi-Wan and Padme were digging through the rubble, and finally, they found him. Vader, barely breathing, stuck beneath so much, lying next to Sidious, who had a painted look of shock and fear on his dead face. The collapsed prison had crushed them both, but Vader's armor kept him alive, at least for now. Padme removed Vader's mask, and she smiled through tears down at Anakin, thanking him. Padme brought Vader's hand to her stomach, telling Anakin that the Force has given her a gift. Vader smiled, realizing the truth, and he let go, dying with the hope that this next child of the Force will turn out better than he did. In the months that followed the battle on Stygion Prime, it would be the emerging rebellion that had the massive advantage in the galaxy. The data that Vader had stolen and passed to Bail Organa unraveled the Empire's core. Hidden shipyards in the Outer Rim were exposed, Kyber mining stations were destroyed, the truth of the Death Star spread across the stars, bringing in thousands of recruits every week as they saw the Empire for what it was. Planet after planet was rising in open defiance, taking the rebellion from a spark to a galactic fire. By the year's end, the Empire simply had bled out, and no one knew the truth, that it was all undone by Darth Vader. Padme watched it all from Naboo with her family by her side, as she soon gave birth to the child from the Force. That child became the first student in Obi-Wan's new Jedi Order, built on compassion. Padme would split her time between the rebuilding Jedi, visiting Obi-Wan and her child, a boy that she named Jin after an old friend, and also back on Coruscant, helping Bail in his rise to chancellorship. In her small home on Naboo, Padme secretly kept the mask of Darth Vader, and although she herself didn't have the Force, she sometimes felt as if the ghost of Anakin were here, watching the information given to the rebellion from Vader work to bring down the Empire. She could never truly forgive Anakin, but in the end, he had made the right choice, and because of his role as a rebel spy, they won, and the Republic could be restored with a new vision. And folks, that is our story for today. I forgot what I was going to say. One I enjoyed, I was, gotta throw that in. It was a fun one. Sometimes I enjoy some stories more than others. I don't know why, but this one especially I just really, really liked. The idea of not putting Padme in the title or thumbnail, I think I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope it was a nice twist. I think it's a really good way to bring Vader pretty quickly, back to the other side, because overall, I also wanted to do this shortly after Revenge of the Sith, instead of it being Luke or Leia that bring him in. I think I've done that before, so I wanted to just do immediately after Revenge of the Sith, when, Vader's still in kind of his darkest, but still teetering on the edge, and, Padme is able to probably be the only one that can probably bring him back. And I didn't want it to be like, I don't think I ever do it where they fall in love again after Order 66, because it just doesn't really make much sense to me. Yeah, I like to just, in this one especially, have Padme be pretty cold to him, and be like, hey dude, you killed a lot of kids and stuff, so, yeah, help us now. I don't know, in the end, Vader's like framed as a hero in the story, but he also is in the, overall Star Wars, so it makes sense. I don't know. I liked it. Hope you guys liked it. Let me know down below in the comments. Yeah, I like to end the Sidious battles with giant explosions and fun ways to kill him, so hope you enjoyed that as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.